Shri Aishwarya Verma, who secured All India rank 4 in the Civil Service Examination of 2021 of UPSC, is with us today in IIPA campus. I am Ashok Vishandass, Professor in Indian Institute of Public Administration. It's my singular privilege to welcome you, Aishwarya.
Thank you so much, sir.
My heartiest congratulations for securing such a high rank in the civil service. Can you introduce yourself for the benefit of our viewers?
So, first of all, thank you so much, sir, for inviting me. It's an honor to be here. Sir, my name is Aishwarya Verma, and I am an electrical engineer. I have done my BTech from Govind Vallabh Pant University of Agriculture and Technology, Uttarakhand. And after that, I started preparing for civil services examination. This was my 4th attempt, and I had geography as my optional. Since my father has a transferable job, I had the privilege to visit some new places. So I have lived in Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Uttarakhand and UP. Presently, my father is posted in Bareilly, so I am living in UP right now.
This was your 4th attempt. That also means that 3 attempts, you did something very different in the 4th attempt, because securing All India rank 4 is a great achievement. And I assume that you must have done something very different compared to your first 3 attempts. So what are those 3 things you must have done very differently in your last attempt?
Sir, yes, it has been a long journey for me, and it took me 4 attempts. But one constant thing was that I was constantly improving across the attempts. In first attempt, I could not clear the prelims examination. In the second attempt, I could not clear the mains examination by a huge margin. In third attempt also, I could not clear the mains, but the margin reduced. And in the final attempt, I got All India rank 4. So yes, I did make a little bit of changes every attempt to improve. In the first attempt, I underestimated prelims examination, due to which there was not enough practice, due to which I could not perform well in the examination condition. In the first mains, my content was not up to the mark. I was not addressing the demand of the questions, so the qualitative aspect of the answer writing was missing in the second attempt. In the third attempt, I improved the qualitative aspect but compromised on the quantity. I could not complete the paper in the third attempt, so that's why a little bit of less marks. And in the final attempt, I tried to consolidate all I had learned in the previous 3 attempts. I improved my quality, I improved my quantity as well. So in this attempt, it was a complete package with regards to quality as well as quantity. That worked for me. And in the 3 attempts, I also improved my optional score as well. In the second attempt, I had very less marks in optional. I could not even cross 200 threshold. In the third attempt, I had 242, and this year I had 280. So across the attempt, I also improved on my optional subjects as well.
Very good. Now, there is an exponential surge in the resources across the country on different subjects, all 7 papers in the main, then they are preceded by 2 papers. And how do you select those resource material? Because it's very mind-boggling to decide on what to focus and what to leave, because that's a big challenge.
Yes, sir. With the advent of internet and internet penetration, the resources have increased manifold. Moreover, there are many coachings material in the market, free of cost as well, that many times confuse the students that which material we should refer. And this was one of the mistakes that I committed in my very first attempt. I referred a lot of material which I could not revise and got confused eventually. So for that, I would suggest that sticking to the UPSC syllabus is very important. UPSC has given a very elaborate syllabus which any person who is sitting anywhere in the India can refer to. And if we stick to the syllabus topics given in the UPSC syllabus, then I think we could rationalize our preparation and we can confine our resources. If we are able to confine our resources, I think we can revise it multiple times and can have a good grip over our subjects. Here I remember a statement by Bruce Lee that I do not fear a move which you have practiced only one time, but I fear a move which you have practiced 10,000 times. So I think a single material with multiple revision is a lot better than many material with a single reading. So a very confined material with multiple revision, I think, is the key, and that thing can be selected through UPSC syllabus entries.
Very interesting quote you gave. Corollary of what you said, multiple revision is a must. It's a big challenge. That's what to leave for the students.
Yes, sir. Sir, I think in this scenario, the previous year questions of UPSC are a very good can be very good guiding light for students. Of course, syllabus is in front of you and you have some resources, some or the other resources aligned for it. But when you are analyzing the previous year questions of UPSC, you are able to understand which area UPSC is focusing on and which area UPSC is not that much focusing on. So those areas can be prepared in an elaborate manner and can be kept for final revision just before the exams as well. And the practice of the answer writing can also be aligned in that direction. So I think UPSC syllabus plus analysis of previous year questions. You don't have to waver around so much. You can stick to these two things and analyze for yourself. And I think civil services aspirants are very smart candidates. With the help of these two things, they can analyze this thing in an effective manner.
Civil service examination is a long journey from the date you apply and the date you join the service.
Yes,
if you are selected. Now let us divide the whole journey into three parts. One is the preliminary exam, other is the main, and third of course is the interview. Let us divide our talk into three components. These two parts of the preliminary, one is the CSAT, other the GL. So what are the resources you can recommend for the future civil servant aspirants?
Yes, sir. Sir, if I talk about GS, nowadays UPSC is asking a very generalistic paper. Means it is not only a test of your knowledge, but also a test of your skills. How you are able to comprehend the question, use elimination tactic, logical thinking, and above all common sense to arrive at a particular answer. So yes, there are some standard sources which everyone should cover, but apart from that, a lot of practice of the papers, the previous year papers, some of the practice questions, these can help students a lot. So if I talk about GS and proper resources, in history I referred the NCERTs of 11th and 12th, and apart from that Spectrum. For ancient and medieval, I was only confined to NCERT, and for modern, I was, along with the NCERT, I also studied the Spectrum because it helped in better memorization. And for art and culture, I referred Nitin Singhania selectively, and NCERT of 11th class, Introduction to Indian Arts. For geography, since it was my option, I did not refer any separate material, but I think 11th and 12th NCERTs along with some value addition and places in news would suffice. For social issues, I was completely relying on the current affairs and some or the other static portion through internet searches. For polity, it was Lakshmikant. I religiously read that book. And for international relation, newspaper along with the current affair compilation that generally comes in the end. For economy, I referred NCERT and the Srirama IAS, that is a very good book. And for science and tech, I generally relied on the things that we have studied across our apart from biology I referred NCERTs and some or the other material, but rest of the things, since it was my background, so that covered for me. And for some other things, some other small topics like disaster management and environment section, I relied on current affairs, and through current affairs some of the static portion of the background. So these were my resources as far as prelims is concerned. But after these resources, I practiced around 50 to 70 mocks in every attempt.
Okay.
Except for my first attempt in which I failed, I practiced around 50 to 70 mocks so that I could get myself ready for the examination conditions and could perform well in the exam. So from taking practice papers from various coaching institutes available in the market free of cost, I practiced a lot, and that helped me to enhance my skills and my elimination tactics. So this helped me for GS. I could not clear the first prelims, but after that I cleared prelims every time with a considerable margin.
Okay.
So I was very sure right after giving the paper that prelims is safe for me.
Okay.
And sir, as far as CSAT is concerned, I did not prepare separately for CSAT because I had an engineering background and that helped me in mathematics. But yes sir, there are some people who apart from that background is also not able to clear. I think the lack of examination practice, the underestimating of CSAT is what is hampering the students. Nowadays, CSAT is not that easy what it used to be 3 to 4 years back. So I think you should practice around 4 to 5 mocks just before to get you in touch with the mathematics questions, the reading comprehension questions. And I think if you are able to score above 90 in those paper, then you are good for CSAT. But if you are lacking somewhere as far as the score is concerned, then I think you should point out the specific areas where you are lacking. Some people are very weak in English, some people are weak in mathematics, some people are average in both. So I think scouting the easy questions and leaving the difficult question is also one of the key. For if I take CSAT for example, there are 80 questions and you need only 30 questions to qualify. So our first priority can
in
be...
fact 27.
Yes sir, in fact 27.
Yes.
32
That
on the
will take
safer
you
side.
to 6. Provided you do not incorrectly answer
Yes, sir.
anyone.
Yes, sir.
If you say attempt 27 correctly,
Yes, sir.
and no wrong answer, you are through.
Yes, 30 on the safer side I am
30 on safer side, yes.
sir. So out of 80 questions, UPSC is considerate enough to give 30 to 35 easy questions that I have personally experienced. And I think if you are able to scout them and apply it in an effective manner during that time, CSAT can be cleared. But if not, you have to practice, since we are also practicing for GS paper, and if we are well aware that CSAT is not panning out for us, then we should give a separate time slot for preparation of CSAT as well. The one thing which I have witnessed is people underestimating the difficulty level of CSAT and giving directly in the examination, which many times can affect.
Which book or resource material you will recommend for CSAT?
Sir, I would not recommend any specific book. I think internet has many things. For example, if you are typing reading comprehensions and MCQs, there are many things that will come. Many mock tests will come in fact.
Okay.
And similar for mathematics. If you want, you can refer this R.S. Agarwal book, quantitative, which is used for CAT, CAT examination.
Yes.
I also appeared for CAT examination during my college days.
Okay.
So I also had a grip over these. That's why I did not prepare separately for CSAT. But I think if you prepare a little bit from this, then it can help you in enhancing your aptitude part as well.
There are 7 papers, including 2 optional,
Yes.
on which your merit is decided. How did you manage the time when you write the main exam?
Sir, first thing that comes while preparing for mains is content. You should have a dedicated content which you are going to write in the exam. So that comes by reading the standard books, current affairs, and making your own notes. I think preparation of mains and prelims is not mutually exclusive, but there are certain overlaps. For example, the standard books are common. But what I feel in mains, a confined area, my mains has a confined area, but has a greater depth as compared to prelims. So for mains, I specifically made my notes. For prelims, I did not made any separate notes, but for mains examination, I created my separate set of notes for each GS paper and a set of practice questions well in advance. For example, you said that we have to write 23 words per minute and it does not have enough time for thinking. Yes sir, that is true, because we don't have time for thinking. Some answers and some model intros and conclusions are prepared well in advance. So first part was enhancing the content. Second part which I felt was value addition through newspaper, current affairs and current affair magazines. First part was content through standard books based on the syllabus entries which are given in the UPSC syllabus. Second part is enhancing those content. It is a static content, but enhancing the static content and relating it with the current dynamics is the second part. And third part is rigorous answer writing. Not only simple answer writing, rigorous answer writing just before the exams that can help you to analyze what you can write in the actual exam. If I take, for example, in my third attempt, I had good content that I have accumulated over 3 years, but I did not practice enough, so I was not sure how much content I can write in the exam. Sometimes I was exceeding the word limit. Sometimes I was taking too much time in a particular question, compromising my time in the other questions as well. So this year, although I had enough content for a question, I knew that I can only write 70% of the content that I have in that particular answer. And this I got to know through answer writing. So in this attempt, I had the content and I have practiced well in advance to know how much content I can write. So here I have an important mantra for everyone. Don't write answers in word limit. write answers in time limit.
Okay.
If I have 7 minutes for 10 marker, then as soon as 6.5 minutes crosses, you have to just conclude it and skip to the next question. If you are able to devote equitable distribution of time among the questions, then I think it can be very beneficial as far as execution is concerned.
That is very interesting insight. Now, this 5 compulsory paper, I had an occasion to analyze the marks secured by the candidate, the pattern.
Yes,
I noticed one very interesting phenomena in essay and GS4, which relates to the ethics, integrity, and the aptitude. The coefficient of variation of the marks in these 2 papers particularly is much higher compared to the other 3, that means GS1, GS2, GS3.
Yes,
when I say coefficient of variation, that means the dispersion of mark across the candidate. Some, for instance, in essay secured 150 marks, on the other hand, even 50 marks. And that kind of wide variation is not observed in the other 3 papers.
Yes,
now, 2 questions flow from here. A, why this happens? And B, how this piece of information can be used to get the advantage by the candidates.
Yes, sir. Sir, if I talk about GS 1 to 3, they have a well-defined syllabus, very well-defined syllabus, and the sources that candidates refer are also same. So everybody has the same content, and the answer writing is also very mechanical in these papers. So students are very well aware about how to write answers in these papers. So that what you call that coefficient of variation between the highest mark holder and average marks holder is not that much wide. But I think in essay and ethics, there is a considerable scope of innovation by the candidate. It does not have a very well-defined syllabus. The amount of hard work, innovation and practice the candidates does in these papers is what is taking them poles apart in these paper. Ethics do not have very wide syllabus content. So many times I have heard a student that in 1 week they are able to complete the ethics syllabus. But I think if we are able to give considerable amount of time in ethics and practice it a lot with a lot of hard work, there is no specific content in ethics. What you read from newspaper, what you read from your day-to-day life, you are able to apply them through examples. And these examples are very hardworking candidates can collect some very good examples from newspaper and these material. So the amount of hard work and the scope of innovation that these papers provide is what creates a very high coefficient of variation in these subjects that I feel.
So you are flagging a very important issue. Ethics, you said that innovation is required, hardworking, and then examples.
Yes, sir.
Now, did you prepare any kind of repository or a bank of those nice quotation, philosophical things to start with? Because at that time in the exam, I don't think you will get time to think even.
Yes, sir.
It has to be a priori prepared.
Yes, sir. That's what I was telling. There are some model introduction, model conclusion and content that is prepared well in advance. That is a part of your preparation. And for ethics, what I did was static content as per syllabus was prepared in my notes. But apart from this, I took 6 sheets, front and back, and I across the years I found around 150 examples, and I pinpointed them that these examples can be used in these certain areas of the paper. So I used to keep that sheet very close to me and revise it constantly, and many times when questions comes in front of me, I used to think which examples can be applied here. So yes, 5 to 6 sheets exclusively for examples I created, which I tried to revise multiple times because such examples will slip out of my mind. And right before the exams or just before the ethics paper, that 2 hours gap that we get, I only used to revise those examples. And I practiced those examples well before in advance during my mock test papers as well. So when you practice it well before advance, you know in which question you are going to use what example, because thinking in the exam can compromise on the time.
Yes.
And ethics compared to other subjects is a little bit lengthier.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Now let us pick up one question from each of those 5 papers which are compulsory. Let me start with essay. Many candidates come to me, sir, the topic of the essay is such that we can't write more than half a page or 1 page. For instance, they start with rational, real, realizational, very philosophical, very abstract. and then there was another question on, essay topic relating to that history repeat itself, first as a tragedy, second as a farce, and then your perception of me is a reflection on you, and my reaction to you is an awareness of me. These kind of things really candidate find difficult, and I also understand that unless you create macro dimension into it, not the micro one. I understand you got excellent marks in essay. So elaborate how you tackle these two essays.
Yes, sir. Sir, yes, the so-called philosophical topics are now increasing, and all the 4 topics were of a similar nature. Prima facie, when we first look at these statements, it looks that we won't be able to write 100, 200 words, more than 1-2 pages in these answers. But I think once we start brainstorming, if we have a proper template for brainstorming, that how I am going to approach to the various dimensions of this particular quote, then I think we will have enough content, and brainstorming should be practiced well before in advance. For brainstorming, what I used to do is, I used to pick UPSC syllabus in mind, that GS1 has history, social issues, geography, GS2 has polity, international relation, governance, GS3 has economy, disaster management, and I used to think this is particular statement from the point of view of these particular subjects, and things start coming into your mind. Once some or the other content start pouring into your mind, then you get a little bit of confidence. No, I am getting this topic. So yes, initially when we see the statement, it looks difficult, but when we start to brainstorm on various dimensions, like you said, macro dimensions, when we start to brainstorm on such dimensions, content start coming into your mind. You just start scribbling it on the rough sheet, and once you are done with the thinking of various dimensions, you start organizing it, what you want to include, what you don't want to include. So this is something how brainstorming works. Apart from this, there was a collection of quotations. Some examples that I created from ethics also worked here. Some data that we use in our GS paper. So these things, some anecdotes, these things were prepared well in advance by me in one particular copy. So apart from this and the content that I have studied in GS, I used to brainstorm a lot. Brainstorming of previous year questions. So every week I used to write 2 essays.
Okay.
If I am not able to write complete essay, I used to brainstorm what I am going to write in those essays. That helped me. Apart from this, the previous year toppers copies, the previous year toppers, the essays written by them, I used to read them. How are they representing their essays? What extra they are putting in their essay that is fetching them good marks? That turned out to be very useful insights for me. And many times from there we can get very good stories, good examples, good anecdotes, which can be applied by us in our answer writing. So I think I practice around 7 to 8 essays between prelims and mains, but I brainstormed around 20 essays. So brainstorm helps in bringing the content, and writing helps you in rectifying the mistakes that you are doing, where you are stuck. And value addition can be done through that singular copy, where you have written examples, case study, quotations, stories, poems. My sister used to write very good poems, small poems.
Okay.
I used to borrow poems from them for my essay paper.
Oh, wow.
Yes, sir.
That's very
Yes, sir.
useful. Now, in essay, there are 2 sections, section A, section B, and you have to choose 1 out of 4 from each section. And so the template, you decide a priori, or you want to give a different kind of template for section A and different for section B.
Yes,
what was your approach?
Yes, sir. I thought that monotony should break, and my both essays should not look alike.
Okay.
So yes, I attempted this. Like in the first essay, I started with an anecdote, a small story to begin with. In the second essay, I started with a poem that was created by written by my sister, an original poem which was. So yes, this was in my mind that yes, I have to try something different, but that depends on the situation.
Yeah, so just for the sake of the benefit of the viewers, can you narrate the anecdote and the little poem if you can recall?
Sir. Sir, the first attempt, the thing that I attempted was the process of self-discovery has been technologically outsourced.
Right.
In this, I started with an anecdote where a young 10-year-old girl uploads a picture on social media and start waiting for the comments. So many comments come. Once a positive comment comes, she becomes happy. Then again a positive comment comes, she again become happy. But then a negative comment comes, she becomes sad. She immediately runs to her mother and asks, "Mother, this is thing that they have said," and she started crying. So her mother could not understand what is happening. But what is happening here? The process of self-discovery, which the girl should have experienced herself, is now being technologically outsourced to a social media platform.
Okay.
So through this story, I started a premise that in the present scenario also, the process of self-discovery, which was supposed to be done by us, is being technologically outsourced to these things. And then I started my essays on multiple dimensions. In the second part in the second essay, I chose the hands that rock the cradle rule the world. So, sir, I don't exactly remember the poem, but there was
But the essence of that poem
was really regarding to motherhood and woman empowerment.
Okay.
But my essay was not completely confined to this theme. It was just a beginning. One thing that I noticed in the second essay, the hands that rock the cradle rule the world, many students were confined to motherhood and woman empowerment.
Right.
But that was only one component of my essay.
Yeah.
I extended this to leaders and institutions. That leaders are the hands that rock the cradle of a nascent institute. Here I gave examples of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai.
Right.
That he was a very great visionary, and due to his efforts, ISRO is what it is right now. Again, this I extended this to political leaders and nascent democratic nations.
Setup, yes.
And I narrated a small story where our Honorable Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was asked by a reporter that what is your vision for future India, and he said 400 million people capable of governing themselves is my vision for India. The fact that today 1.2 billion people are governing themselves is itself an epitome of the fact that the vision that our political leaders took is still continuing, and this is how I concluded my essay. So I took what was confined to just one thing. I confined it to mother and father. I elaborated it to the education institute. The teachers are also the hands that rock the cradle of the education
Teachers are also
institute.
there, yes.
Leaders and institution and political leaders and nations. So I think this second essay was something beyond the scope of a particular dimension, like you said, macro dimensions.
Right.
So this helped. I think this essay helped me a lot.
Yeah, because some author recommend the essay you start from should also touch upon our end somewhere on the, because suppose you are starting with a very nice philosophical note or anecdote, it should also gel so that the journey of the essay becomes seamless.
Yes, sir.
Oh, so what is your take on that?
Yes, sir. That is indeed a very good technique, and I practiced it in my essays as well. Some of the copies that is being uploaded also has such kind of essay that I start with the story and ended with that story as well. But I think we should not confine ourselves to such thinkings. We should be flexible depending upon the situation.
Yes.
If it is coming naturally, then you can go for it. But don't try to force it.
Okay.
Don't keep your mind in such a rigid state that I have to do this only. For example, I used anecdote in first and poem in second. That was not pre-decided that I have to use it. It changed according to the question, according to the content that I have. So I think flexibility is something that can be rewarding, because there the flow is natural. But if we are forcing it, then it is not.
Yeah,
going
because
to
then
work.
there will be bumpers and speed breakers, because it has to be seamless flow, because that is necessary for the essence and for a good quality of the essay. Now let us move to GS paper. Now in GS1 there was a question: what are the socio-economic implications arising out of development of the IT industry in big cities in India? Now how you approach this question?
Sir, I started this with first of all, introduction of IT sector, a data that how IT sector has boomed in the recent years. I created a map where I plotted various cities where our IT sector is booming. And then I divided the question into two parts: socio-economic implications and what are the future way forward. And I started writing 5 points. So this gave my answer a contemporary dynamics, and a structured look. Heading followed by some bullet points, heading followed by some bullet points, and a few way forward in conclusion. So this is how I approached.
But does it also help? You put the socio-economic implication in one heading.
Yes, sir.
But does it help if you again break up the socio dimension and then economic dimension separately?
Yes,
so teacher will be forced to give more marks because each component has its own mark. What is your take on this?
Sir, yes, sir. If it is asking social and economic dimensions, then I can break it and could ask for more. But I thought that if I write 5 points in these things and a way forward apart from that, how it can be ameliorated, that could give my question a very future vision as well. So problems are there, and I am also quoting the solutions for them. So I thought that this thing could help me get more marks.
One interesting question was asked in GS2. Can the civil society and the non-governmental organization offer an alternative model for service delivery that will benefit the citizens? And what are the challenges in this alternative model?
Yes, sir. Sir, I divided this question into 3 parts. First was introduction, what are civil society and non-governmental organization and how they are helping. Second was how they can act as alternative models. This was my first heading, followed by 5 points. Then again, second heading was the challenges regarding the same. Again, 5 points. And third heading was how this can be helped and how this can be ameliorated, again followed by 5 points. And in conclusion, I followed by what government has done for this and what can be done more to implement them in a rational manner. Sometimes what happens is we tends to give much more weightage to one particular part of questions, right, and tend to neglect the other part. So this was in my mind that I will divide the questions into sub part and will try to give equal weightage to each and every parts. So in my mind there was a rough template that I have to write minimum 5 points for a particular section, and if time or the space allows me, I can add 1 or 2 extra points. So here I told you the template that first heading was this, second heading was this, third heading was this, followed by 5 points in the form of headings and subheadings. So this gave answer a very structured look, and this structured look I think can help examiner to evaluate your copy in an effective manner.
So the essence is meeting the demand of the question. That you have to think over it and then proceed accordingly.
Yes,
and second point, you are saying that it has to be not skewed distribution of time and words. It has to be uniformly distributed over the entire gamut of the question. Again, the water is a precious natural resource. Now, there was a question on to what extent the micro irrigation can help in solving the problem of water crisis in the country.
Yes, sir.
So your comment on that?
Yes, sir. Sir, in such type of questions, there are some simple answer writing, but in some or the other questions you have to go beyond and try some innovation. So this was a strong area for me, since geography has also a considerable part in agriculture as well. So such topics were my strength, where I used to innovate a lot. So I told about micro irrigations, and I made a chart, a table in which I pointed out the efficiencies and distribution of various types of irrigation techniques. For example, canal irrigation 26%, tube well 52%, but the efficiency is very less. So efficiency of micro irrigation though is very high, it is highly underutilized because the share is less than 10%. So this is how I started my answers. Then benefits of micro irrigation, limitations of micro irrigations, way forward, and in the conclusion that our government has launched Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana for improving these techniques. I also included a case study that Israel, despite of having 90% desert area, is able to produce the agriculture produce in an effective manner due to the success of micro irrigation. And the link between India and Israel, there is a project also going on where Israel is helping us to implement the micro irrigation techniques. So this answer was a combination of some static points, some contemporary dynamic points, and some government initiatives. So these questions were strengths for me.
And that makes your answer very comprehensive and attracts, because that you are prompting the teachers and the
give extra
examiner to
marks.
give more marks.
Sir, here I would like to share one insight.
Right.
My one teacher, when he was evaluating my answer one day, he said, you have satisfied the demand of the question, but your answer does not look nice. So मैंने बोला, sir, what happened? Can you suggest me something? So he said me, memorize this one mantra. Whenever you write the answer, just try what is one thing that can fetch you half to 1 marks extra as compared to other candidates.
Right.
This answer what you have written is going to be written by almost everyone who is preparing for mains. Try something which is going to give you half to 1 marks extra. So I try to include maps. I try to include data through visual represent that I highlighted in terms of canal efficiency, tube well efficiency. I used to draw some flow charts which help to make my answer look good. And I used to model good conclusions and introductions, which I have practiced well before in advance, so that when the question ends through conclusion, examiner is compelled to give that half to 1 marks extra.
And that
across the 7 papers can be huge difference.
Yeah, if you get even half mark extra, there are 19 or 20 questions in each paper. That means 10 mark extra in each paper, and 7 means 70 marks difference in the main.
Even if not 70, even 35 also can make a huge difference.
Huge difference, because each mark there are ties also, so I can understand.
From the last 2 attempts, this has been my constant conscious approach, that while writing an answer, I used to try for that half and 1 marks extra, because at the end of the day, UPSC Civil Service Examination is a competition where you have to perform better than your contemporaries.
Absolutely, and that makes you stand out. Now let us come to GS4 on ethics, integrity and aptitude. There was a question, because it is said that if a civil servant has ethics and empathy, nothing else matters.
Yes, sir.
If not, nothing else matters.
Yes, sir.
So there was a question on what are the main traits on which one can plot the performance of a civil servant.
Yes, sir.
So what are your thoughts? Can you name 5 main traits on which the performance of a civil servant can be plotted?
Sir, in these questions, many times what happens, students tend to think on the spot. What can be the 5 traits? But if you look at the previous year questions, there are many questions where they have asked what are the important attributes of a civil servant. So I think you should have 5 to 6 or even 10 values on your tips, which you can quote there and can write with better examples, so that you can get better marks as compared to others. So in such a scenario, I always used to remember Nolan Committee values.
Okay.
Integrity.
Those 7.
Yes, sir. Those 7, pointing out the best out of them. Integrity. Then empathy. Emotional intelligence, which is an explicit topic given in your ethics syllabus. So I had examples prepared well in advance. I had definitions prepared well in advance, and I have variety prepared well in advance through practice. So one was integrity, then empathy, emotional intelligence, tolerance, neutrality, fortitude. These are the areas where they can be evaluated. So I am not able to recall exact what I have written in the exam.
It's fair enough.
Yes, sir. But this is one approach that I followed, that these things should be prepared well in advance.
No, that's fair enough and good approach. But just let me understand one thing. What's your take on, now Nolan Committee gave the 7 traits which a civil servant should possess, but the question is asking 5. So what do you recommend? All 7 should be given, because you are invoking Nolan Committee. So we can say that 7, but the question asks only 5. So candidates should restrict only to 5, or just to in their anxiety to get more marks, he should give all 7?
No, sir. I think students should stick to the demand of the questions. And here, when I suggested Nolan Committee, I did not suggest that you have to write all the values. We can write one of the value, the definition. It was only for my mind map to recall which values I can quote. And we can give a passing reference that this value was also recommended by Nolan Committee.
Okay.
So for recalling the values, because when we think about Nolan Committee, all those 7 values come right in front of, and we can choose which I can write. Selflessness, honesty, integrity,
so 5 most important out of
I
those
can write. Or even if I don't want, I can include some other as well. For example, compassion.
Which is not in the knowledge.
which is not in the fortitude,
Right.
tolerance or neutrality. These I can include apart from. In the similar paper, there were 10 values also asked. The question number 1, there was 10 values. So here what I did was 7 values I started from Nolan committee and 3 values I quoted from myself. This helped me to complete the 10, because when students start thinking for 10 values, sometimes they can get stuck between 7, 8 values. So I had memorized those 7 values and 3 values from my side. So that helped me to write that answer quickly. Students can write
Quickly and differently.
quick. Students
And
can
better.
write, but they might take 8 to 9 minutes. But that question was supposed to be finished under 7 minutes.
Right.
And sir, honestly, when I wrote all the 4 papers from GS 1 to 3, all my papers completed in 170 to 175 minutes. It was only ethics that took me just a dot on time to complete the paper, despite I had a very good practice. So you have to be a little bit quicker as far as ethics paper is concerned.
So you said you were able to complete in 170 to 175 minutes. So 5 minutes were there. So you used to revise that? Or
Sir, underlining the good
okay.
my
Achha,
friend.
so you went back, yes.
Just a quick glance.
Right.
That sometimes, sir, when we tend to write very fast, we used to miss out on some words. We used to miss on some or the other things. Some spelling mistakes can happen.
That's normal.
Some enrichment, some better looking presentation. I used to make diagrams, and when I have the time later on, I used to include them in a box to make it look better. So these things can be done afterwards if time permits. But my answer was complete in themselves. But this value addition can give a good glance over your answer.
Yeah,
so
that's
this I can do in the last 5 minutes.
And that is the key to stand out
Sir,
and be
yes, sir.
a
That half mark extra.
and be a face in the crowd.
Sir.
So this so much for the 5 compulsory paper. Now let us come to the optional. So what are your consideration when you decided the optional? That is question A. And in B, how to secure more marks in the subject which you have never studied, almost never studied in your academics in graduation level, and what are your thoughts on that?
Sir, first selection of optional. When I started selecting my optional, I had my background electrical engineering, mathematics and geography in mind. One from humanities. Students were also thinking about PSIR, but these 3 were the finalized that I am going to choose from this. In terms of mathematics and electrical engineering, I could have taken them, but it could have taken more time to prepare and an exclusive preparation for these subjects, because these are somewhat objective subjects with numericals and practicing those numericals and lot. So it would have taken a considerable out of separate time. In case of geography, what I found was it has a considerable overlap. If I talk about GS1, then about 100 marks of geography which is coming in GS1 can be covered effectively. Second, in terms of paper 2 also, the governance aspect, the multi-level planning, the decentralization part, some of the planning things India has implemented also used to cover from geography. In GS3 also, the agriculture section which students fear a lot. I told you that I made it my strength due to geography optional. Environment section and disaster management section. These things can be considerably prepared through geography as an optional. So these were in my mind. And when I started studying geography, physical geography, I thought that I am able to easily understand it, and the concepts are not very difficult for me. These things prompted me to take geography as an optional.
And how did you allocate your time between the 5 compulsory paper vis-a-vis the optional 2?
Yes, sir. Sir, first blunder that I committed in this preparation was choosing the optional late. I started preparing from July 2017 and the paper was supposed to be in June 2018. So I prepared optional from October, which carried out till May, and that heavily compromised on my prelims. So what I suggest was, whenever students start preparing for civil services examination, they should start with optional. The initial part should be focused more on the optional, and the majority of the subject should be covered within 4 to 5 months. After that, you can shift to GS, and value addition of optional 1 hour per day, 2 hour per day can be given to optional for answer writing and value addition. So this is how in the further attempts I used to divide my time, that whenever a fresh attempt used to come, I used to prepare my optional first, refine my optional first, and then I used to move to GS, because GS majority of the things that are asked between prelims and mains, the contemporary dynamics going on during that time. So there you have to focus more on GS part, but for that you have to prepare your optional well in advance. The value addition in the GS section can help in the value addition of geography as well. So this is how I think we should allocate the time to optional and GS. First optional should be completed, then GS, and then a little bit of balance of both.
Okay. Now, so much about the main exam. Now, let us come to the interview.
Yes, sir.
So, how did you prepare for the interview? Because they can ask anything under the sun.
Yes, sir. Sir, first thing that I did was I sat for mock interview unprepared. Various coaching institutes were offering the mock interview. I was fortunate enough that my interview was on the last 3 days.
Okay.
So I sat for interviews in the starting week of April, and I sat for the mock interviews and in an unprepared manner. So I gave around 2 to 3 mocks, and the performance was very poor. But one thing which I realized was I was able to plot my mistakes, where I am doing mistakes. I am not prepared well in this part. I am not prepared well in this part. So after that, I looked at my DAF and the areas which the recommendations of the teachers and bureaucrats during my mock interview, I used to plot them. These are the areas which I have to work upon. So I started slowly building my content on those particular areas and practiced in front of mirror a lot.
Okay.
How am I looking? How am I presenting myself? How am I framing my answers? After around 10 to 15 days of preparation, I again started sitting for mocks, and I plotted my mocks 4-5 days apart till interview. So in all total, I get 10 mocks, and I do around 2 to 3 days of gap between each mock so that I can incorporate whatever suggestions are given to me. This is how I prepared. I covered each and every entry of my detailed application form DAF in a very thorough manner. I created a separate copy for this. One thing is that my father has a transferable job, so I had to study 3 states,
Yes.
MP, UP and Uttarakhand. So this took me a lot of time, but I tried to cover each and every aspect which I can cover in this time frame. My hobbies section, my current affairs section, my electrical engineering section and my geography section. I covered each and everything in detail. I used to keep 2 hour slot for each and everything, and kept refining them.
So in interview, essentially, according to my perception, can be divided into 3 parts. One is the DEF,
Yes, sir.
second is facts-based, and third is the opinion-based.
Yes, sir.
Can you recall, broadly speaking, what was the emphasis of the board on the DEF, and how much time they spent on fact-based question, and thirdly, how much on opinion-based question?
Yes, sir. Sir, I think my interview was a mix of all 3. First of all, my background is electrical engineering, and optional is geography. So my board was M. Satyavati's ma'am board. So ma'am started with some geography questions. First of all, she asked a little bit about myself and to make me comfortable. And then she came on to my geography, some of the geography questions, differences between east flowing river and west flowing rivers, issues regarding cartographic representation on a flat map compared to that on a globe. So these things ma'am asked me, and then the after that sir asked questions related to my electrical engineering. In electrical engineering, I also got 2 types of question. One was fact based, second was opinion based. In fact based, they asked me the installed capacity of hydroelectric power plants, the nuclear present scenario and the future projection. And in the opinion based, they asked me about the issues related to, there were coal crisis during that point of time, about them, and issues regarding transmission, the distribution and generation, and how we can solve them. So these were questions related to my DAF. One sir asked me about chess. My hobby is playing chess.
Chess, okay.
So he asked me about a particular scenario in chess that was related to my DAF. One ma'am asked about...
he described the situation in a chess particular...
Sir, he asked exact question that if I am a novice, then how much moves you can take to checkmate me.
Okay.
So I described this in 2 scenarios, that minimum moves that are recommended are 4 moves, but there is a particular situation where you are black and you can give checkmate in 2 moves if that particular situation fulfills.
You can checkmate in 2 moves.
Yes, sir. So he was quite surprised because I think he did not know this 2-move checkmate. So I elaborated him the particular scenario.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's very interesting.
Sir, since it's my genuine hobby, chess I've been playing since age of 5.
Okay.
My father taught me this, so I was quite comfortable in chess related questions. After that, one ma'am was there which who asked me, since I am from Ujjain, she asked that Indore has been declared as cleanest city for the last 5 years. So what is that particular something that Indore is doing which can be replicated to other areas? So I explained this with the help of an example. So I think she was quite convinced. She asked me loopholes regarding cyber security. That was a current affair based questions. So in all total, my interview was a mix of opinion based questions, fact based questions, and questions from my DAF, and it was a very wonderful experience interacting with.
It was more a conversation style.
Yes, sir. It was more a conversation
style. That's wonderful. And many candidates, they say their interview was a roller coaster in the same 30 to 35 minutes. Sometimes it gives very pleasant experience of asking very comfortable question, and sometimes it's very grueling.
Yes,
and can you narrate 2 episodes in that when you yourself felt very comfortable in answering and one is not so comfortable?
Ma'am asked questions about geography. Since geography was very well prepared, I got a little bit of confidence there. From the things of river, the immediate sir sitting to the right asked about hydroelectric power plants, the installed capacity, and these were also very well prepared for me. So I got a little bit of more confidence. Then again, the sir sitting next to him asked me about chess, which further increased my confidence. And through by this time my interview was very smooth going. As soon as it switched to ma'am just threw me some factual questions. When is International Yoga Day celebrated? So yes, I remembered that. What was the theme? What is the theme? I politely told ma'am, sorry ma'am, I don't know, I'll read more. She further asked me about which departments conduct International Yoga Day and what are some events that are planned in this yoga. So I was not exactly aware of this, so I politely declined that. After that, ma'am asked about cyber security. So I gained a little bit of confidence, and when that Indore question came, made me super confident, because that is something that I have been witnessing with my own eyes. And then when sir again shifted to electrical engineering, he asked some technical question, what is power factor? So I had prepared well as far as electrical engineering. So again, my interview ended on a good note. So this was a roller coaster that my confidence first started building up, then a little bit of glitch, and then again ended on a very high note.
That's very interesting. Do you have any message for the youngster who are preparing for civil service examination? They will benefit from your experience.
Sir, I would say that this exam is a unique exam. There are many exams in the market which have a time span of 3 to 4 months, 5 to 6 months, but this exam is a unique exam. This exam requires hard work and perseverance. So do not compare it with the outside world. Try to make 3 to 4 friends in this in this area, which you can rely on, and you can rely on them. And I think perseverance is the key. If you are not getting the result for the first time, you should be able to analyze yourself what went wrong, and that the process of self-discovery that has been asked in this year's essay as well. So that process of self-discovery should be with yourself and should not be given to. Many times the students are very much dependent on coaching centers. You should not. You should rely on your own prowess. So I think this exam is a unique exam. Understand the demand of the question exam and try to, I would say, persist in this examination, perseverance across the.
We got the point.
Yes, sir.
So much about the interview. Before we let you go, there was one rapid round of questions.
Yes,
and on 30th May, when the results were declared, you found the roll number 5401266. How did you feel? What was the dominant thought that passed through your mind?
That day, I switched off my phone. Because many times there are fake PDFs also circulating in the market. So I said that whenever result will come, I'll download it from the official site and will see the result myself. So I switched off my phone, that I will not talk to anybody. I told to my parents
No,
that I
after
will.
the result, you
Yes,
came
sir,
to
yes,
know
sir.
of the result.
That's what I'm there. So my mother sent me on a regular tour. So when I was at the shop, the shopkeeper asked me to Google Pay. So I switched on my phone very reluctantly, and as soon as I switched on my phone, by that time 45 minutes have passed when result has come. I 100 messages popped up. So one thing was sure, that my name was in the list, because these 100 messages were congratulations again. And suddenly one message popped, it showed that All India rank 4, and I started crying.
Oh,
Because constantly not seeing your name in the list for the past 3 years, and suddenly getting All India rank 4, everything freezed in front of me.
right.
I gathered myself and cross-checked it 10 times from the official website. Again, phones started coming, but I kept my phone aside, because the first thing that I wanted to do was reach to my parents. So I went home. I called my father. My father was already there. So I hugged them, I touched their feet, sat down there for a moment to appreciate what has happened, and then I started receiving phone calls.
So by securing 4th position All India rank, you have declared what are your strengths, what are your 2 weaknesses?
Sir, if I sum up in one line, I am a slow learner. That is my weakness till now, but I learn. That is my strength.
So जहाँ आप आ गए हैं, वहाँ हम भी पहुँचेंगे, मगर धीरे धीरे. So that's
I will try to improve this thing. And sir, I used to be very impunctual with regard to my plans, not too disciplined. I used to refine my plans a lot. That procrastination. So there was this quote that I found, that procrastination is the thief of time. So as with attempts, I tried to improve my punctuality and discipline to keep my thing well in the time limit. Because if you are punctual, that gives you a little bit of edge to think and strategize what is going to be your next approach.
And time is the only natural resource which is non-renewable.
Yes, sir.
Yes, that yes, I can appreciate your concern about this. Now, what is the things that makes you angry?
Sir, with time, things that make me angry start becoming less. When we are young, many things makes us angry. But I think this is by this examination, I have improved myself, that now there are very less things that generally makes me angry.
What is that? At least one, name one.
Sir, I am not able to recall
What
any.
makes you happy?
Sir, small things make me happy. Whenever I play with a kid, I like playing cricket a lot. So I start playing with a kid in a small gallery. So such small moments make me, and I think we should find happiness in such a small
These are the
moment.
small pleasures of life.
Yes, sir.
So thank you. My best wishes to you for all your future endeavors.
Thank you so much.
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.